Chair Joseph Anderson.
Present.
Vice Chair Blair
Here.
Strickland. Secretary Treasurer Jean Enright. Commissioner Wayne Richards.
Here.
Commissioner Kathrine Waldron absent. Executive Director Manuel ALMIRA.
I'm here.
Court Counsel Greg Picken.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right. Can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence for the natural disaster that occurred in Haiti.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, please let us know if you can't hear us due to the facial mask. Are there any additions, deletions, and reorganizations of the agenda?
I do not have any additions or deletions. However, I believe that Commissioner Richards has a reorganization.
Commissioner Richards?
Thank you, Mr.
recognized.
Chairman, thank you. Insofar as the Auditor Selection Committee has spent many hours, and the other two esteemed members are here, I would request, Mr. Chairman, that you kindly move that item up, please, to immediately after the consent agenda. They can hopefully go home after that.
So we're looking to move I1.
After consent, if finished.
You want it after consent or after this report? Or consent? I mean, after consent?
If you would, right after consent, if that's okay.
Okay.
Has nothing to do with their age, just that they may want to go home.
All right. Does anyone else have any additions, deletions, or reorganization?
Move approval of the reorganized agenda, please.
It's been probably moved by Commissioner Richards and second by Commissioner CIKLIN. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. I'll entertain a motion to approve of the minutes.
So moved.
Been moved by Commissioner Enright and second by Commissioner CIKLIN. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Do we have any presentations and announcements?
We do not, Judge.
Down to consent agenda. Is there any removal, deletions? I would like to, just for a brief, G5, G6, G7, and G13.
Chair Anderson, you're asking for a report on them?
Yes,
Keeping them in the
a report.
consent
Exactly.
agenda, okay.
We can G5.
G5 is the check signing procedures. With my leading the port, we have a policy whereby we have split check signing authorities. We have the controller and the CFO as a level 2. We have the executive director and the chief engineer as level 1. You normally try to get one from each group to sign each and every check. The only exception to that is that in the event that the executive director is signing the check for any reason, anyone else of those three can sign. With my leaving and the director of finance position not filled yet, we're asking to add the senior director of business development on, Mr. Michael Meekins, so that there are at least 4 people capable of getting 2 signatures for every check run.
And Has this by any chance, have we ran this by our current auditing company, or is normal procedure as far as,
Sure. Yep.
okay. All right, so, and as right now, we will not have a director of finance, but that's going to be interim, correct?
Correct. And I'll no
So
longer have
level
such.
two was only to be controller and then being replaced with Michael Meekins.
Definitely, yes.
Now, does that have to come back once a director of finance is appointed or actually hired?
Yes,
So it has to be brought back to us?
that is correct.
Okay. Thank you. G6?
G6 is reallocation of cash balances. As you saw earlier in the renewal replacement, we are obligated to put 5% in every year prior revenues. That's not only for renewal replacement, that's also for the business development budget. It doesn't affect what they can spend, how much they spend, or where they spend it. It's simply by our bond covenants, we are required each year to put 5% away for business development and renewal replacement. As the bond holders, we want to make sure that the port is both taking care of the port and marketing it. Once these cash accounts become what we call excessive, we ask that the board reallocate the cash out of this dedicated amount to unrestricted funds. It does not limit what they spend. If something were to come up and the board would want to spend it, it's there. It's just simply one pocket to the other pocket to avoid this accumulating cash in that account. So we're going to be moving $1 million out of business development over to the unrestricted. Cash balances stay the same, and it still leaves roughly $600,000 for business development to spend, and next year we'll be putting another $700,000 in the account.
Okay, so another $700,000 will come in fiscal year
2022.
2022. Okay. And G7?
In G7, last year, what we did was we put in a reserve for doubtful accounts at $355,000. As the COVID hit, we were having difficulty collecting from one of our most significant tenants. That was collected. However, we did have two write-offs last year. Sunshine Biofuels was $118,000 that the board approved, and Tropical was $102,000 that the board approved. What we are left with is now about $255,000 in our bad debt accounts. Everybody is up to par. There is no long-term outstanding. There is no risk at this point in time. So I'm asking the board's permission to reverse the $200,000 back into income, and $55,000 is more than enough for this board's historically for a bad debt account.
I just wanted to ask, in light of we may be into a second wave and maybe experience some of the same issues that we experienced in 2020, has that taken into consideration?
Well, you have $55,000 left. Currently, all tenants are up to date. If in the event there is a problem, we just simply come back to the board and say we're going to put $50,000 more in there. So we will react to it at the time rather than carrying a $200,000 excess balance.
And G13?
I do.
Commissioner, is G13, this is simply a placeholder, not a placeholder, someone that we can rely on. That's Paul. He will be coming as needed under a consultant basis. We still continue to search for a replacement. We're having somewhat of a difficulty because of the level of salary that some of these candidates are asking. They're asking upwards of $200,000. So we're going to have to go out and see if we can get a recruiter or some sort of headhunter to see what else may be out there.
Is it currently posted now?
Oh yeah, it continues to be.
Okay, and right now we have not received any qualified candidates. Well, Mrs. Zielinski, will this also stand in place for the transition?
Yeah, sure.
So whomever is hired will get acclimated, and we'll also have.
Absolutely. I would like to use Mrs. Zielinski for assisting me and HR in identifying the candidate, and also having Mr. Selinsky trained to the point that we can, the new candidate.
Okay, now it says here that we're purchasing a block of 50 hours, in advance.
Correct.
So I just wanted to get clarification, so whether he works 1 hour or he's going to be compensated for 4.
Correct. He's going to be compensated for 50 hours. We've already blocked and booked them for the next 50 hours. And that's be something that Paul and I will be working on as far as when we need them. Obviously, we need them always, but we're only going to be bringing him down here for a special project or a continuation of the contract, for example, the negotiation that will be taking place on Monday with Lease.
Now I'm looking at, is this sufficient? Because 50 hours, I mean, that's a typical work week, 40, and if we haven't hired anyone, say within a week or 2 weeks, well, you have to come back to us and ask for additional.
Exactly. But I don't anticipate that would be much of a problem. Paul and I will be working on maximizing his knowledge and his ability to work with us and try to save money for the board.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Richards,
Thank you. Yeah, I think this is very prudent. Clearly, we appreciate Mr. Lindsay's efforts. He's done a great job for us here. But in my reading of it, you'd be purchasing the time in blocks, not one block, but blocks. And I'm sure you'll make sure that when it's time when you don't really need his services, you'll utilize the full block or as close as possible. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Mr. Selinsky trusts us.
And the number's quite reasonable, so I'm glad you did it. Thank you.
Okay. Now, when you said that, I just wanted some clarification. It said a block of time, not blocks. It says a block. Just wanted to make sure. So does it come back to the additional 50? Does it come back to us? Because right now the verbiage speaks to a block of time, and then it says any unused time remaining on this initial block of March 13, 2022 will be considered by the district as work and billed by consultant. So I want to make sure, so we're saying a block, not blocks.
A block, 50 hours, I believe it's 50 hours. Then, if we need, and we probably will.
So if it needs additional block, it has to come back to the board.
That is correct.
Oh, thank you. I read it the other way. Thank you.
Just wanted this for clarification. Okay, thank you. All right, I will entertain a motion for the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, it's been properly moved by Commissioner CIKLIN and seconded by Commissioner Enright. Are there any questions or any questions? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, Madam Clerk.
We're currently at old business. I-1, annual audit services, selection of auditing firm, and approval of agreement.
I'd like to go through very quickly where we are and what needs to be done today. According to state statute, you are required to establish an auditing selection committee that was established with Chairman Richards as the chair, Peyton MacArthur, and David Talley. The auditor selection committee was to establish the evaluation criteria, which they did. They were announced to publicize the RFP, which was done. Provide the RFP to interested firms, we did. Evaluate the firms. Compensation cannot be the sole criteria. That they did evaluate them. And on 7/22, they ranked and recommended in order of preference no fewer than 3 firms. In your folders, you'll see the ranking sheets. The highest ranking firm was that of Sean Davis and Associates.
Commissioner Enright?
I don't know.
It's in the folder.
You should have a folder that has a color sheet that says item I-1.
Okay.
The highest ranking firm was Sean Davis and Associates. The second and third firms tied at CBH Cherry Beckert and CRI Carr Riggs and Ingram. Since compensation was one of the evaluation factors to be used by the committee, The board shall today select the highest ranked firm by the committee, which would be Sean Davis, or document for public records the reason for not selecting the highest ranked firm. Once that firm has been selected by the board, they can directly or through a designee conduct negotiations and to bring a contract back to you for your approval. With that said, does the board choose to vote on selecting Sean Davis at this point in time?
Commissioner
I
Enright?
have some questions I would like to ask. I have a couple of questions
Of
before
course.
we vote. I guess my first question is that I see when they selected Mr. Davis, and, you know, I don't know any of the firms, but,
Commissioner, would you please speak into the mic?
I see where Mr. Davis' firm was selected, but I don't know any of the firms, so I had to read and go through. But I'm really confused because I looked at their credentials, and I know that all the firms meet the qualifications and everything. But I guess my main concern, and I want to ask the audit committee about the number of staff members in a firm, because my understanding, now maybe I'm wrong, they have 2 staff members, which is husband and wife, that's fine. But then when they do jobs, they go out and they get consultants to help them, to work with them. And I guess my main concern is that we need a company where we have consistency in staff members that work with the board. And then when I looked at their submitted papers on page 3, this is what it says. SDA employs over 40 and currently has over 20 governmental staff. So they're telling us that they have 70 staff members, and my understanding by talking to other people who hired them and worked with them, they say they're very qualified. But they really just have 2 primary staff members. And then when you look at their table they gave us, they said partners 2, I guess the husband and wife, manager 2. But all these staff folks, that's not true. When I'm reading this, and I've talked to other people who hired me. So I think that the board needs to have a company, a real company, with people that we can just, they can call on over the years that have some history, because suppose you can't get the same subs to work for you that year. And so they're really, my understanding, just 2 people work for that company. And I think that this is really, on page 3, to say they have 40, they employ 40 people and then 20 people, that's not right. That's just my comment, I'm just one person. So I would like for us to look at the other 2 firms who tied for second, but that's my thoughts. Those are my thoughts, that's all.
I have a couple of questions if you're finished, Commissioner.
I'm done.
Okay. I wanted to know, I see here that one firm was ranked for 0. I have 2 questions. First of all, we were not given the evaluation form for each individual. What we were given is just the total score. I would have liked to see and definitely want to see the evaluation forms to show how each individual was ranked for each division. No. What I'm actually indicating is, if you look at the evaluation form, when it says so many points were given for 0 to 25, the actual evaluation forms for each individual that was completed, that is not in our backup. What we have is a Excel spreadsheet that shows the list of the totals.
That is correct.
It says right here, Port of Palm Beach request for proposal, auditing service, ranking, selection, evaluation form. A, qualification, experience, 0 to 25. B, technical, 0 to 20. C, minority woman enterprise, 015, et cetera, et cetera. So, this form was not included in our backup. That was just one of my questions, and I would like to see that because I would want to verify and see where these companies rank among each other, and I wanted to see how they were ranked individually. That's number one. Number two, my second question was with this one firm, which was ACT, Certified Public Accountants and Consultants, an LLC, why would they rank this 0? I just wanted to find out why that happened. Third, are there any meetings from that meeting, from the audit committee?
With respect to the 0, that was provided by one of the committee members. I couldn't not answer why that was given. That committee member would have to respond to it. As for the minutes, I do not recall there being minutes taken. It was an open meeting here. It was myself attending, Danny Kirchman as controller, and the 3 committee members. Ms. Almira was in very short period of time, then left. And as for the individual sheets, I do not have those with me, sir.
Okay, because what I'm saying, that will probably give us some insight, because what I was given here by the Audit General September 2020, which I received yesterday, and I just briefly went over it yesterday because it was in a short time frame. On page 20, it says questions. It says, are audit selection committee meetings subject to the Sunshine Law? Yes. Audit selection committee meetings are subject to the Sunshine Law, noticing meetings and keeping minutes for all meetings. So that would answer some of my questions as to why this transpired.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Richards.
I want to ask my 2 other board members to join. Dave and David. So I've asked Dave Talley and former Commissioner Peyton McCarthy to join me. The 3 of us comprise the committee. I know that I did not have the occasion to speak to anyone other than at a meeting. Did any of you 2 have a chance to speak to anyone else on the committee other than the other meeting? Okay. So okay.
I'm the one that ranked the firm with a 0, and I can explain to you why I did very easily.
Can you get closer?
I considered their response to be inadequate. I didn't consider their response toward the RFP to be responsive. Let me explain. For instance, they didn't know the title of our CFO. They had, for 3 letters of a reference, they were identical. The only thing that changed was the letterhead. It was identical. They didn't provide the rates. I didn't consider their response to the RFP to be responsive to the requirements, and that's why I gave them a 0.
Okay.
Commissioner, can you please?
While you're up there, could you tell me, while you're up there, could you tell me, did you have a chance to look at the staff of S. Davis, and then why your rankings were? Because if you look at page 3, they're saying they have 70 employees. They employ 70 people. My understanding, would you have selected a firm if you knew that they just had 2 people? And I'm asking that to Mr. Talley and Mr.
Insofar as the chairman, I'm going to answer first. So one of the, and when I took this on, I was unaware of the amount of effort it would take. Unfortunately, I probably spent about 16 hours, I would think. As part of the process, when you read the proposals, it indicated we had to actually contact the references. So I actually contacted the references. It's funny, I got a call yesterday. I think somebody from San Diego actually responded to me weeks late. But I was very pleasantly surprised that most, if not all, of the entities that were listed as references for all of these auditors received glowing remarks. One company, though, the person said, I would not hire them again. it's been a nightmare. That company ranked very low with me. But for S. Davis and Associates, the response was very good. Two entities responded to me. They actually called me back. They weren't available initially, but they called back Gene, and they said, we are very, very well pleased. We're currently using them now. It's a multi-year contract, and I hope we renew them. So the references were very good for S. Davis and Associates. But let me just go over the process. Can you give me a minute, please? I promise.
I will.
So, when we had the meeting, we read the statute, and it said the auditor selection committee shall, that's not permissive, shall is mandatory, establish factors to use for the evaluation of the audit services, shall publicly announce requests for proposals, shall provide interested firms with an RFP, shall evaluate proposals provided by qualified firms, and that's what we did. And it says if compensation is one of the factors established pursuant to paragraph, it shall not be the sole or predominant factor. The committee shall rank and recommend an order of preference no fewer than 3 firms. I think we rated 6 or 7. But then it says the governing body, that's the board, shall inquire of the firms as the basis of compensation. But if compensation is one of the factors established pursuant to paragraph 3, which it was, and used, which it was, the governing body shall select the highest ranked qualified firm or must document in its public records the reason for not selecting the firm. These gentlemen actually complained in the meeting, especially my good friend Dave here, about the amount of effort they put into it. These two gentlemen spent a lot of time in going through, and of course, I had no idea how they would rate, nor did they have any idea of how I would rate. But to my surprise, and I was actually surprised, the firm Sean Davis and Associates was the highest ranked firm on 2 and close on the 3rd. They had a total of 287 points. The next closest was 275, and after that was a drop off. So amongst the 3 members, S. Davis and Associates, by and far the highest average. And we'll be well served. Just like the other firms, other governments have said, they did a damn good job. And they would hire them again.
Go ahead, Commissioner Enright.
I did not say that the other companies did not say they did not do a good job. You missed that. What I'm saying is this. They work as subs, and I've talked to people who hired them also. I've done my homework. They work as subs. And if you look at it, I would just hate to see us have an audit company with 2 individuals than a whole staff of people, because you need continuity over the years and people that have worked for you. Suppose they cannot pull that stuff off the street of that person. I just have a problem with that. And then I have a problem with this statement on page 3 that they got all these people working for them, and it's not true. They don't have a staff of 30 people on their, 70 people on their 60 people on their payroll. They don't. They say they employ. So, it's kind of like wishy-wishy. But they hired them as subs. And I would like to see us have a real firm over the years with consistency, their staff working with our staff, not just 2 individuals. But that's my take on it. That's it.
I just want to focus on the process, the actual process. 1, there was not any minutes kept at this meeting, so I just want to focus on that. That's number 1. And number 2, it says, and thank you for your service, Mr. MacArthur, but 2 of the individuals, Commissioner Richards as well as Mr. Talley, they rank the individuals of that particular firm. But it says right here in our proposal, the proposal will be evaluated by the Audit Selection Committee, and a recommendation will be presented to the District Commission to select a proposal which meets the best interest of the district. The district shall be the sole judge of its own best interest, the proposal, and any resulting negotiating agreement. It goes on to say that we have the ability, or the audit committee or the Port of Palm Beach, that should have been determined whether they had been deemed non-responsive. If I'm looking at that verbiage correctly. Also, too, if you look at the Florida statute, which is stating 218.391. It says B, in subsection B, that's actually subsection 3 and B. If compensation is one of the factors established pursuant to paragraph 3A and used in the evaluation of proposal pursuant to paragraph 3B, the governing body shall select ranked qualified firms or must document as public records the reason for not selecting the highest ranked qualified firm. So just want to make sure that what we have raised here, that could be construed, or that could be our reasoning, our rationale, by not going with this particular firm. And lastly, which I find, I was very, I was just very distraught. I received all of my books and all my information was already marked up. So I don't mind being led, to water, but maybe that's what I not want to drink. But every book that I had, I don't know, and I can't speak because I haven't spoken to any other commissioner, but all of my books were already marked up. It was indication with question marks for this particular company, asterisks here. All of my books were marked up, and I didn't think that was fair because now it wasn't objective. So that leads me back to where the minutes kept for all of the meetings. That way it would answer a lot of questions, and then we're part of the Sunshine State Law. So that I have my books right here. All of them were marked up. And I can't speak to each other commissioner, so I can't speak to them. But all of my books were previously marked up, and then when they were delivered to
So
me.
let me ask staff, and I think I know the answer, but I'm going to guess. I'm going to guess it. When we were finished, we gave our books to staff. I gave my thick stack, my 20 hours worth of work to staff.
Okay, there. Commissioner, at the time that the delegation was here from the Virgin Islands, we gave you a complete clean set. You asked for a second set. At that time, I believe we were down looking for it. We may have copied one of the audited selection committee's books just to put it together. But at the Virgin Island meeting, we gave you and Commissioner Enright a completely clean set.
This is what I have right here, and this is not copied. I mean, I don't know if this was put in the binder, but for each one of these were already marked up. And even if the paperwork that we received, I mean, there's a, even this audit and information is already highlighted and whole nine yards. So I just have a, I have an issue with that. So, but I have a more issue with we're not following our process. And to say that we can't do this when it clearly states in the statute, number one. Number two, a lot of this questions that we're asking, this could have been seen within the minutes of the audit committee. And number two, if we should have done a better job with actually going through and deeming non-responsive for each, or for, if it's, I'm not sure if this is germane to HCT or if it's any other firm, we should have actually disqualified them or had them non-responsive because that is currently what it's looked. And I can understand it, and I definitely appreciate Mr. McCarthy, your reasoning, your rationale. But from a holistic standpoint, this should have been vetted prior to. Because what we have now, we have one company that's basically sitting in limbo, and they're the lowest with a zero. Now,
I have a question.
Commissioner
I
Enright?
think Mr. Sickler had one thing.
Commissioner Sickler, you?
I was gonna say, my book had some markings on it, but it didn't bother me at all.
I have a lot
So,
of, but it didn't bother me either.
Yeah, so that wasn't
So,
any big deal, but I don't know where we're gonna
I
go from
guess-
here. I kind of depended on the three people to come back to us, and the court staff had it, I
If I
think
may,
they
Mr. Chairman.
were looking at it too, so I don't know where we're gonna go if we're not gonna take their recommendation. That's what I was ready to do, so.
Mr. McCarthy?
Commissioner Enright, excuse me, not Commissioner Enright, Commissioner Richards wants to.
So I'm feeling a push and pull, if you will. My interpretation of the statute is, and I just read it, and you repeated the same words, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The statute, in my mind, really looks to the auditor search committee to clearly take the lead, put the time in, and then if the governing body who has the final say feels there's a factor of material import or a factor that concerns you, you can override that. That's clear. But the level of involvement, for instance, I will say this, we probably had less than 10 sentences at the meeting, but there was one question asked. This gentleman, Peter MacArthur, asked a question. He said, I believe that one of the respondents was not responsive. What should we do? And I said, my advice to you is to use your best judgment. I cannot tell you what to do, but I said, use your years of experience as a former commissioner, as a business person, as a citizen, and as a committee member, use your best efforts and judgment to handle it as you see fit. But if the board, if the commission, the governing body wants to be involved, and you can, in whether an entity was responsive or non-responsive, the committee really, the board really needs to be the entity that goes through and makes that determination along with other determinations. But the way the statute is drafted is really these 3 or 4 or 5, whatever you choose, they're the ones that would make the determination. But if the chairman says, you know what, I think the governing body should be the entity to determine responsiveness or not, then you'd be the ranking committee members. So there's a push-pull, and I understand the frustration. I do. I understand the frustration. This is relatively new, and I will tell you, some of the governmental entities I spoke to said there's a learning curve. But once again, 9 out of 10 people that spoke to me were very, very happy with all the people that responded. One said, heck no. But Sean News and Associates, 100%, they said it's a go.
I said that too. I guess Mr. MacArthur and Mr. Talley, if you know that a firm is 2 people and they're doing the business for the port and have to get subs, would you have selected them to take the job? Let's talk real talk. And then on this page where they did not give accurate information, page 3, would you have selected them and given them that high score? Be honest. I need consistency over here.
I honestly don't know, but that wasn't one of the criteria. The criteria was key personnel, and that was addressed in the thing. If I, that would come up, I would think under continuity from year to year, and that wasn't one of our criteria. But I wanted to share one other thing. I believe the chairman asked a couple times about why was a proposal that was unresponsive was submitted. It was our understanding that staff told us they didn't make any comments on any review of any of the responses. They simply gave us all the responses, which were 8. And then we had to figure out how to do it. And that's where my question to Commissioner Richards at the meeting, what if we deem one of them unresponsive? What do we do? And he said, you use your best instincts.
And thank you for your service, and that's why I think we should have done a better job, because it clearly said in 1-10, acceptance or rejection of proposal. The district reserves the right to reject any and all proposals when 1, such rejection is in the best interest of the district, or 2, if the proposal contains any irregularity. Provide, however, the district reserves the right to waive any minor irregularities and to accept the most responsive and responsible proposal. The district also reserves the right to cancel this RFP at any time or to solicit and re-advertise for other proposals. So before it got to you guys, it should have been vetted, and we should have did a better job, because it clearly states here, I'm not, this is not Joseph Anderson's, I'm looking what I was given. And the process actually states acceptance or rejection, and this is in the proposal. So from that point, it should have been, okay, let's give the audit committee all of the proposals that have passed. I'm just, based on what I'm reading here.
Sir, with all due respect, the staff, the executive director, the chief financial officer, and all port staff could not be involved in it at all except for procedural. So the decision as to whether or not a particular submission met the criteria, didn't meet the criteria, was totally up to the committee. We could not interject. In fact, I had read the proposals before the meeting so that I was sure not to make any statement that would lean one way or the other. I did not read any of the proposals until after the committee made their choices, because by that time, it was over. But we were not, by statute, permitted to offer anything, any input.
No, I have to understand that we're not talking about input. We're talking about the acceptance or rejection of a proposal. Let's, I want to make sure that we stay on track. That is what we're talking about, because if we accepted those proposals, that means they should have been communicated and they all should have received an evaluation
Mr. Chairman?
based on what this is saying.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Clearly, I'm making a pitch for the auditors and committee's work to be respected because it was done correctly, it was done to statute. Now, if one of the committee members decided to give a 0, that's that person's decision. And if you look at the other two individuals that ranked that firm, one gave a 79, one gave a 90. That's an average of 84.5. If you want to add that, the person comes in 5th place. So, this is a new process for us. And if this body wants to nitpick it, we can do that. It's new. We haven't done this for 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 times. So we can find an area of confusion. We can sow distrust, and we can become confused and have nothing. Or we can honor the good faith effort of this body. Quite frankly, ask me to do this again, and the answer will be no.
Excuse me, just to follow up. I want it to be known that I definitely, Mr. Talley, Mr. McCarthy, we respect the time and your, that you gave to this board. But I have to stand behind a process that is beyond reproach, because now we're also maybe looking at, maybe there's a bid protest, or it's, those things of those natures. But when I'm looking at the documentation, I'm not getting off the beaten path. I'm staying what was given to me, what was given to me yesterday. So I'm staying on path for which says, hey, were the minutes of the meetings recorded, did we violate the Sunshine State law? Okay, number 2, we're talking about acceptance or rejection of proposals, whether that was followed. Number 3, the information that we were given was already marked up. That's number 3. And number 4, we're talking about a company, just one, but a company, I'm looking at the information that was not evaluated. The last one I'm hearing is, we never received the additional backup, which was the evaluation reform. So to say it was done correctly, I think that's, a little bit of embellishment, but I'm only looking at the process. There are too many things that we didn't check the boxes on that I don't feel comfortable with moving forward. That's just me as one individual, but I cannot go into or vote for a company or a process that I didn't deem we checked off the box. Now, I may be wrong. Now, we can ask from our port counsel, Mr. Pickens, do we have, based on what I brought up, what is your recommendation?
Well, first, Greg Picken here, Ryan. First, I would like to point out that although it sounds odd, recording the meeting is not, let me read you the exact language. Record does not mean an electronic recording. There just needs to be minutes. So,
yes, exactly. And
okay, that's all I wanted. As far as whether you're satisfied with the process or not, That's a matter that's up to the board.
Okay.
Okay.
I guess
Mr. Enright?
my question is, I know that on occasions, if you want to be nitpicky, I had talked to Mr. Paul about this because there was a problem with Mr. Sean Davis' application that he put financials in this and this. So that was, he said it was okay. So I guess if that was okay, some of the other stuff should have been okay. Because he did not submit his paperwork correctly according to what we asked for online. They were not right, okay? And then no one marked that section. I guess my big deal, I mean, if you're gonna go back, let's get it right now. His papers were not correct as far as the way they were submitted. We asked for financials, we asked for other things. He didn't submit them that way. And so if you're gonna mark down, they should have been marked down. Number two is that I still have a personal problem with hiring anyone for the port, 2 individuals do our audit. I just cannot vote for it. Although it's not a part, it's not a requirement, they didn't say it could be one dog and one cat, just a lady or just a man, to be the auditor by themselves. But we're the Port of Palm Beach and a business. And we need to have checks and balances and continuity and have one auditor and not a forum, 2 people. That's my biggest problem. But it does not say we have to have a large company. It can be one person.
And right before Commissioner
I'm done.
CIKLIN, I just want to make sure, I think in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, I think the more fairest thing for us to vote on the 8 firms because of all of these anomalies, I believe it's in the best interest and we vote. And these are my reasons, so therefore I will satisfy what's in the Florida statute. Commissioner Enright is satisfied with her reasoning, and so at that point, I feel that we as a body should vote to make it fair across the board. And that to me will clean up some of the missteps that happened in the process. Commissioner CIKLIN, you recognize.
Okay. Well, I was prepared to go along today with the recommendation. They spent a lot of time, and I respect the 3 people and their opinion, but I'm certainly not in a position to vote on a different group now. So I'm going to need at least 30 days, and if we're going to bring it back up, and if we're not going to take their recommendation, I really didn't do the work like they did to really go into each and every audit firm. So I'm going to need at least 30 a month to go through everybody before I could just, pick one out. I expected, and I thought we all agreed at the last meeting that the committee was going to basically select an audit firm for us, and since now, at least, half of the commission doesn't like it, I think that we're going to have at least a 30-day delay, so we can at least go through it. I certainly can't pick an audit firm. I certainly didn't do the work.
Mr. Chairman?
Before we want to hear from public comment, I'm going to hear from Commissioner Richards, but I just want to make sure that we do have a public comment on this issue. Commissioner Richards?
I'm going to ask my, you're okay? Sit down. We're going to leave. So, just for the record, I didn't want to critique my colleagues' comments, but just for the record, Commissioner Enright made a comment about the number of employees, and that's not my finding in my rating. And I know sometimes we read things and maybe we don't read them correctly, but that's not an accurate statement. I think I saw a person from the firm here, so if you do want to address the firm, you can ask those questions, but I don't wish that to be taken as fact. It's a statement by one commissioner. And the chairman made about 7 points. 6 of the 7 one of the 7 has opportunity to be valid, and I understand the concern about there's no electronic minutes were taken, and I don't believe notes were taken. The notes that were taken, it looks like you may have them because they were written on the documents. 6 of the 7 comments don't hold water with me. I just don't want to leave here and we think that because the commissioner said something, it's fact. But if you do want fact, I know some of the firms are here, and I think I saw somebody from S. David Associates show up. So Commissioner Enright, if you wanted to inquire as to the size of the firm, number of people, or the audits, I think you could ask that question if you want a true answer. And maybe it's one or two, but they're here, they can give you an actual answer. But I want to sit down at this point. I'm at the 22-hour mark, so if you want to start from 0, feel free. Thank you.
I just want to ask Mr. Kelly something.
Excuse me, Commissioner Enright?
I guess my question is, Mr. MacArthur and Mr. Talley, would it have made a difference? You said it would not have made a difference if you knew the number of people in a firm? Would that would have made a difference? Or you did not actually know and did not actually go back to try to find out? I guess that's my question, because I just have a concern about that.
I don't know. It would have been concerning, but it's not one of the criteria.
Okay.
That's one of the problems. We had that issue on another item as well. And we could only give them points or take away points based on the criteria once we resolved that the response was responsive.
Okay.
Commissioner Enright, just to narrow it down, to S. Davis and Associates, one of the questions was availability of key personnel. Proposal indicates an appropriate level of personnel to adequately provide necessary services. All I wrote down was West Palm Beach, number 1, local, and number 2, refer to page 25. The basis of what I read on page 25, I read 10. There was 10. I can't be more specific.
So in essence, even though you may have thoughts about it, whatever was the criteria, you just did that. Even if it was 1 or 5 people, if the criteria said a certain thing, you just evaluated it. Well, see, wait, you cannot have a company come up because then all the other companies have to have the same time. It would not be fair.
The committee selected.
I don't have a problem with who they select. You know, that's fine.
But do you want information or do you want to guess?
No, I'm not guessing. I
You are
talk to
guessing.
people. Look, I'm going by their
The
book.
principal is here. Just
Oh,
ask
she
the
can,
question.
okay, she can answer. This is not right.
Yeah, because, right now, we have not, we're not taking Q&A from, because in that case, in order to make it fair, you would have to have all eight, firms here.
If the
So,
commissioner wants to answer, they can
But that's
answer.
okay.
They
I'm
can't
not
answer.
saying that, I'm just saying is,
I'm looking at page
we're in the
3. I just
process,
take what they have on page 3.
are we currently under the cone of silence?
I'm sorry.
Are we currently under the cone of silence for the RFP? Under the cone of silence?
This is public comment.
I'm just asking.
The answer
Well,
is
we'll
yes.
just go by what they have on page 3.
Excuse me?
They're gonna-
The answer is yes.
So we're still up under the cone of
Oh,
silence.
we'll just go by what they are.
So I just want to make sure that we don't validate this process.
Okay, but we will not, I'll just go by what I see on page 3. And if you go by what's on 3, they have 40 people and they have 20 people, so. It just is.
For the record, this is a public meeting.
I understand that, but we still have to adhere to our RFP. And many of my comments, it came directly from my own process. This is not anything that, this is facts. This is what we put in our RFP. This is what I received from the Port of Palm Beach yesterday, and I vetted it, and I went through, and I did my due diligence. I want to make sure that we're following our process. That's it. We have one public comment. I think this is TARY.
Public comment for agenda item I1.
She said she put a card in.
I'm just asking for, okay, public comments, go ahead. Well, excuse me, just right before you speak, I would like direction from my counsel.
She cannot, because it would not be fair.
Yeah, make a comment. No, she can't make a comment.
I would not do that.
She cannot make a comment. She cannot make a comment.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Excuse me, I'm hearing from my.
Yeah, I would not do that at this point. If the comment is going to go towards any part of the process here or could invalidate something going forward. Take that.
Does your comment goes directly to the process? I just want to ask you for.
My comment was going to clarify Ms. Enright's misunderstanding.
Okay,
of what this
unfortunately, we
document
don't want to, you know, because we still in.
Mr. Chairman,
Excuse me, Commissioner.
So for council, and we may not know the answer, but public comment, if the public wants to stand up there and say, boo, 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 or doo, 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 how is that not appropriate? No, it's for the attorney.
Excuse me, this is.
Commissioner, I think if we are not going to, then all 8 firms should have an opportunity to stand up and make
They do.
public comment.
It's a public meeting, publicly noticed, this is on the item.
But that was not, obviously, that was not part of this process that's laid out in the statute, and I think you circumvent that by having the public comment, but,
I won't belabor it, but I would disagree. It's a public meeting, publicly noticed, if a person wants to come and speak on something, all 8 could be here, 10 could be here. But you're the attorney of record, a part of this is more than that. Thank you, sir.
Commissioner Enright, you recognize?
I agree with Commissioner CIKLIN. I just think that we need to come up with a plan and revamp and come back and just table all of this. And next month, try to get it right. Okay? However the process is, whatever we're going to do.
Joe?
Commissioner CIKLIN, you recognize?
Yeah, Paul, would this be okay to put it off till next month? Because like I say, obviously, we don't have a consensus, so.
Putting it off to next month is not a problem. The question is, what are we putting off till next month? Are we asking the audit committee to reconvene? Are we asking that next month the board vote on all 8? So as long as the direction as to what we expect next month, I think we can put it off, but at this point, I'm not too sure we understand what you're looking for.
Well, that's my question too. I don't know. I thought it was that we decided that, maybe our attorney can tell us, I thought that we all agreed last meeting that the audit committee was going to make a selection. But if that's not the case, and that's not what we decided, you know, we have to have some direction from somebody on what we're looking for.
but what I would like to suggest is that the court get the submissions, get all the full submissions from the 8 firms, when I say the court, that the commissioners, all commissioners get the submissions from the 8 firms. Perhaps Commissioner Richards would have some minutes prepared from the meeting, from the audit committee meeting, and then the board reconsider this. It may be that you decide to have all 8 firms come and speak to you at that time, or you may just want to limit it to the number of firms. I think at this point, if you're going to limit it, it should be limited to either to the 3 firms or let all 8 firms come. And I'm just trying to address this is not how I would plan it in advance, but based on what has transpired, this is how it's suggested you could handle this without going back out again for going through the auditor selection process again. And then when the next meeting comes, you may have decided at that point to accept the audit committee's number 1 ranked firm, or you may decide to that you still have concerns and you have a basis for not accepting the audit committee's recommendation, and then you vote amongst the 8 firms.
I'm definitely amenable to bringing it back because I want to make sure that each commissioner has the ability to read, because this was a very, quite a bit of information to sort through. So I want to make sure, I'm not sure because we don't have a commissioner out, but with Commissioner CIKLIN, he hasn't had time to look at this information. So in the event, we go with a vote which we're entitled to based on Florida statute. I want to make sure that all of the information has been had by the time to be vetted by each commissioner. So I'm in favor of bringing this back at our next scheduled meeting. Now, as far as the logistic as to if you guys want to hear from any of the individuals, 3 or all, I'll leave that up to the pleasure of the board.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Enright?
I would like to make a motion that we just bring it back and, at our next meeting, have commissioners to go through it, and then we can rate them 1, 2, and 3. And then go from there, if that's possible. Then
Yes.
don't do that. Make them 1, 2, and 3, like we do other things, and then pick one. The
It's
next meeting after that, pick one.
it's been motioned by Commissioner Enright.
I'll second it, but I think, for discussion, I'm always one that, I'm always apprehensive about when you keep on saying, 1, 2, and 3. I'm the one that always says, if a firm, I'm gonna bring it up for the attorney the same way, gets 3 votes, he should be, or the firm should be selected, not that way. So if we can amend the motion that the
Okay.
majority of the commission select
Okay.
the number 1, then I'm fine with that.
I'm okay.
Okay.
I'm okay.
So just one clarification, the majority meaning, is it the lowest score or
No.
the?
Whoever if 3 commissioners vote that they want the audit firm, that's it, 3
That's
out of
it.
5. They get it.
Right.
Commissioner
What he's
Sid-
saying,
Commissioner Sigmund, are you saying voted as number 1?
Yes,
If one firm gets 3 number 1 votes?
correct. Just like on the, for the,
Now, I'm a little bit biased, but I don't kind of agree with that due to the fact that, it's the lowest bidder, and if a person receives the lowest bid, but then another person receives 3 number 1 votes, if that's the case, we would just make a motion and a person was to vote, 3 commissioners will, in essence, my question dives in more into the proposal. Would we be running foul of our proposal, our RFP, by doing it that way? I'm listening.
By going with the firm that gets
The
3
3
number 1 votes?
votes.
No, I don't think you
I just want to make sure.
correct. And the analogy you're making to a submission for a contract, let's say to pave part of the court,
Mhm.
that's required to go to lowest responsible bidder. That's not the case with this submission. This involves qualifications, a number of different issues, as opposed to who's the cheapest firm.
No, when I say lowest, when I say the tabulation of the votes. So if we're tabulating 1, 2, and 3, rank your company is 1, 2, and 3, and the lowest based on that score. So here you have A, B, C, D, but then company B could have the lowest based on the tabulation, but then company A may have 3 number 1s, but they may have 2 3s. So they're not the lowest when the tabulation is concerned. So
No,
that's
No, I do understand
that is what I'm vacillating between the two. And I do not think that's a very good procurement policy, because I think we should have also stated that in our RFP prior to. That's just my opinion. Commissioner Henry.
this is my motion. Let me go back. The motion is that we review the material, then each commissioner select 3 out of the 8, or 3 out of how many we have. Select 3. Then we come back, after we've selected 3. We all receive the sheets, we tally it up, and, whoever, however it's tallied. Each commissioner pick the top 3. Then, like we've always done so, and then the winner is the one, after we've identified the top 3 out of all the 8 or whatever, can we do it? That's where we normally do it. And then we come back with 3.
No, Commissioner, I'm sorry, but.
And then we pick
but
one.
You're going to need to rank them all. Otherwise, you'd have 5 commissioners, and they might each.
So we need to rank all 8.
Yes.
After we rank all 8 of how many we have, then we come back, and then the top ones will be selected, which would be the,
You can.
whoever gets 3 number 1 votes
That's
wins. It's not rocket science, I don't think, unless I'm including my.
Right, I understand, I understand.
But the individual doesn't get three number one.
Well, the lowest votes, the
See,
lowest.
that's why, you know.
That still would be the lowest vote.
That's why I think it's the lowest.
Well, same thing.
It's not the same thing, it's not the same thing, because, you know, if you look at it mathematically, it is not the same, so I wanted to make sure.
Okay, well,
that
we'll
we
bring
don't
them all
have
and come back.
ambiguity, that you rank them all in the lowest. We have our hand up for our first.
Chair Anderson, can I get a clear vote, please? A clear vote? I'm sorry, a clear motion. Can you please restate the motion?
I don't know what it is, Mr. CIKLIN.
But perhaps we
Maybe
can
the
leave-
attorney can do it.
perhaps
Mr.
we can leave the
CIKLIN,
discussion
Commissioner
of the
CIKLIN
voting.
fixed it.
Perhaps we can leave the discussion of the voting for the next.
Okay, we can do that. So right now is,
The motion that we,
Complete this.
could you reiterate for the?
make a motion that we bring it back to our next meeting, and all commissioners will review all the credentials of all the people who submitted, to be considered for the audit committee.
Fine, second.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Enright and second by Commissioner CIKLIN. Commissioner Richards, you're recognizing?
I don't know what that means. Could you repeat that, please? I don't know what that means. Can you repeat the motion?
Okay, so the motion that I have is motion to bring back old business I-9 to the September board meeting. All commissioners would evaluate all 8 firms and make a selection. Is that what was?
Madam Clerk, can you call the roll?
Chair Joseph Anderson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Lloyd CIKLIN,
Yes?
Secretary Treasurer Jean Enright,
Yes.
Commissioner Wayne Richards.
No. All right. It is a 3-1 with Commissioner Richards dissenting. All right.
I wanted to thank, just wanted
I'd like to thank Mr. MacArthur, Mr. Talley for their service in this process. And, you know, it's not, you know, I just want to make sure that this process, we have to do a better job, in my opinion. And before we close that books, we might want to budget for next year. We might want to add a procurement officer. Thank you.
If I may make ask a request, I sent an email out to all of the commissioners asking who would like copies of the RFPs. To the best of my knowledge, I got 4 responses. 4 people that are in this room now have copies of them. Commissioner Waldron never contacted me, so she does not, because not being on the audit committee, it was optional. I will have a copy of all 8 sent to her as soon as I can.
Yes, I think it would behoove us to make sure that she is located or Commissioner Richards.
Mr. Paul, if you send out, you give write out to each of the members as well, because some of them, there's some notes and some of the books they need write out.
I just asked.
So they need write out.
If you want us to,
I'm fine, I got lots of.
I think that was left alarm because I have all, it's all marked up, but I was able to.
all I can do with that is offer my apologies, I wasn't aware.
Chair Anderson, I just want to clarify that the agenda item that will be coming back to the September board meeting is agenda item I-1, old business.
Yes. All right. We have district reports.
Thank you. All right, commissioners, as the name of the subject says, around the report, we start off with U.S. Virgin Islands delegation on July 29th. Let's see if I have my glasses. Much better. The port welcomed a delegation from the United States Virgin Islands that included Governor Albert Bryan, and that's the tall gentleman right in the middle, next to Commissioner Enright. Commissioner Anderson and Commissioner Enright, along with members of the port staff, spoke about the most traded commodities between the port and the islands, port infrastructure, and finance. Well attended, and by the way, it was hosted by Tropical Shipping, even though we use the opportunity to provide lunch. Moving on, resolved. The Port of Palm Beach is currently handling a record-breaking number of mitigation reef modules. Not sure if you can see them, but which are being constructed and deployed as part of Broward County Segment 2 Beach Nourishment and Restoration Project. The modules are built in the city of Okeechobee and then transferred to the port via port user Walpole. The mitigation reef units that are concrete table structure with inlaid limestone boulders are stored on port property. The units are then loaded onto barge operated by a Resolve Marine Group and then double stacked. Resolve takes approximately 2 days to load the 300 to 400 units onto the barge. The reef modules are then transported to north of Fort Lauderdale, and that's where they are deployed into the ocean. The completion of the project includes the transportation and installation of about 4,000 units. The project is permitted by the Florida Department of Environmental Protection and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. We anticipate a total revenue of upwards of $450,000 when the project is completed, which right now we're looking at the month of November. So that's, by the way, it is not in the budget, so that's a little shot in the arm. Next, Commissioner, I would like to talk to you is about coronavirus. As part of the American Rescue Plan, the Port, of course, has received a FDOT PTG grant agreed amount of, as I mentioned before, $4,000. This is to assist the Florida ports in making for the loss of revenue due to COVID-19 pandemic. Fast forward, with COVID cases on the rise and the different variants spreading across the state, face covering are now strongly encouraged inside of port buildings, including elevators and public restrooms. We have also suspended port tours indefinitely. Another item that we should discuss, should commissioners and staff be attending events hosted by community partners. One item that came up just as we were starting the meeting is one of our facility members, staff member, tested positive. He's at home. Now the rest of that crew is being tested. We hope, pray that everything is all good news. We did hear, however, that this gentleman had not been vaccinated. Moving on, Commissioners, as you know, a deadly earthquake and a tropical storm hit Haiti in the last week. Monarch Shipping, which is owned by Teeter's Stevedoring, are currently collecting relief supplies such as clothes, tarps, tents, hygiene products, and food for survivors of the earthquake. Donations will be accepted today and tomorrow between the hours of 8 and 4:40 p.m. at Monarch Shipping's office located at 270 North Martin Luther King Boulevard. Further, as you can see, our facilities team built 2 large crates which will be used to store some of the supplies. As in years past, of course, Lease will be coming into the South Gate, and that's where we will have these crates ready to be filled with donated goods. Additionally, Commissioners, as in years past, the Ports Board has waived wharfage charges for relief goods. I'm requesting the authorization to again refrain from charging wharfage for relief goods to Haiti until December, or until the end of the year, December 2021. That is a request that I would like the board to consider.
Reverend Bruno was supposed to, he's in here, Reverend Bruno. He had brought that to my attention. Is he still here? He's gone.
Is there
Right, because he wanted to talk to us if he, I don't know, did he give you a call?
Chair Anderson, you have.
He has a car, if
He wants to comment?
the board, could he comment on if, you know, if the people of the board, did he comment now on this particular? Okay. Seeing no objection, thank you, Mr. Bruno. Welcome to the Port of Palm Beach. Thank you. Reverend Bruno, sorry.
Thank you, good evening, everyone. My name is Francis Bruno. I'm the pastor and president of the Pastor Association of South Florida. And I'm assisting with Pastor Jerome Pavilion, who's a member of the board too. And this is the third time I'm here for the same cause. I was here in 2010, and with the earthquake in Haiti in 2010, January 12th. And I was here in 2016 after the Matthew hurricane. And today again I'm here for the August 14 earthquake. And I know it's so terrible on the ground in Haiti right now. And we have a lot of people asking about the possibility of it. Is it a curse for Haiti? And I always answer, yes, it is a curse, but it's not really a God curse like people, like a lot of people think. And it's rather a man-made curse because the Mother Nature always treats people worse than they treat it. And my country people tend to abuse the environment harder than other neighborhood countries. And according to the last report published by the National Emergency Operations Center of the National Risk and Disaster Management System in Haiti, 2,189 people died and 12,268 injured, and 332 were reported missing. And the report also mentioned 52,953 houses destroyed and 77,600 others damaged. 4 people also died in the Southeast Department as a result of tropical storm Grace that is hitting hard the south region in the country. There are more than 2.5 million people live in the southern region of Haiti. And thank God any time that we have this dire time, this difficult time in Haiti, we always come here and benefit from the support of our friends, and especially with the Port of Palm Beach. And we have a special thank you for Dr. ENRIGHT and the chair, Joseph Anderson, for inviting us here. And we're looking actually to have like we usually do, to have the the port fee waived when we ship the containers overseas, especially in Haiti. And we're also looking to have some items collected, like hygienic items, tents, tops, and why not cash, because we want to buy some essential items too. And we're working with Outjet from Crane. So actually they're collecting items and to send in Haiti. So most likely we're asking the Port of Palm Beach to waive the fees, the port fees. So we already talked about that.
Yes, okay. Thank you, Bruno. And I don't know if you reached out to our executive director can speak to from Palm Beach County. Mr. Green reached out to me, and I think maybe Commissioner Bernard maybe also with those efforts, they were trying to find a logistic for drop off of the donation. And can we make sure this information is disseminated to the county as well, so they can also have all of their donated items maybe dropped off at this location?
Yes, I will. And we have a phone number available too, at 561-856-9806. 561-856-9806. They can contact us. And if anyone wants to give donation.
Thank you.
I thank you. Appreciate that.
All right, so Commissioners, again, I would like to ask the authorization to waive wharfage fees associated with relief goods until the end of the year.
Okay, it's been properly moved by Commissioner Richards and second by Commissioner CIKLIN. Are there any discussions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Fantastic, thank you. And just on the, talking about COVID and traveling, these are the upcoming events. I do know that, I believe we know that KATHRINE suspended or at least postponed their annual event. I do not have an answer on BDB, whether they've done the same. But other than that, these are upcoming events. I will not be traveling to Panama City. My place will be PICKEN. And basically, that's all. There's one more. That's the APA in Latin America. I'm not sure whether that's still going on. To the Latin American Congress reports in Cartagena, Colombia. If you have any questions, Commissioners, if not, I thank you for the Thank you.
Work engineers report for August.
Thank you, Commissioners. I'll be brief in the essence of time. Engineering department is currently managing several RFQs and RFPs, and a few of those will be coming to the board this meeting tonight for approval and award. And I continue to work with the Director of Planning and Assistance on first the review of the proposed contract for the master plan and in assistance in guiding us to our master plan. On our Port Infrastructure Development Program, tonight we'll begin the process of consultant selection for the PID consultants. As we're aware, this project is a major milestone in the future of the Port of Palm Beach. It will provide increased security, quicker clearance of cargo both inbound and outbound, better transportation connections, and the most advanced rail system this port has ever experienced. We also coming to you tonight with a request for guidance on the MOC chiller plant replacement. I'll present that item later in the meeting. Dredging, you know, when I came on board, one thing I said is dredging was very important to me, and I was going to work hard to try to secure funds and work with the Corps of Engineers to make sure we limited dredging and emergency dredging. I'm happy to say that the largest dredging project that has been done in this port in the last 15 years is out for bid. Bids will be received on the 31st, and the Corps will advise us the winning bidder and the timetable for this project. This will result in the emptying of the settling basins, which should provide more than a year's worth of assistance in stopping our shoaling. Other key work, we continue to work closely with our tenants on issues related to rail, infrastructure issues, fendering, etc. I've been working closely with our potential client, Ozinga, on environmental surveys and details of ship unloader operations at our berths. Also been working with FPL on reconstruction of the intake tunnel, which is commencing, and we were able to get FPL to accommodate future rail crossing of that tunnel by major structural revisions in the tunnel during this reconstruction. One other quick point I'll note, since the executive director mentioned those record-breaking reef modules that resolve this building. Those modules were first designed and used in a reef restoration project for a vessel grounding site in Florida Keys in 1994. That project was done by your port engineer. Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you. We have H3, Business Development Report.
Hey, good afternoon, Commissioners. I come to you today with a little bit of good news. We have secured another cruise line for the days off of Bahamas Paradise Cruise Lines. The company name is Prime Kosher Cruises. It is a small cruise ship operator that services the Orthodox Jewish cruise vacation market. The company operates one ship, the MV America. It's up on your screen now. The ship will operate 3 4-day coastal cruises from Port of Palm Beach to the Florida Keys. Some of the highlights are the vessel will sail seasonally starting next month, September 23rd, until May 2022. After that, it will return to the Great Lakes for the summer season up there. It's a 138-passenger vessel with a crew of 42. The vessel is 257 feet long. PK Cruises will operate on the non-scheduled operating days of Bahama Paradise Cruises, like I stated. This is a month-to-month berth assignment, so at any point we can stop it, continue it, but it will go until May, unless the executive director deems otherwise. This is also a prepaid monthly berth assignment, so we will be paid before the ship ever leaves, each month prior to, but the ship will leave. The ship's turnaround time is extremely short, so this is a very extremely low port effort on the overhead costs. The majority of their passengers will be picked up and dropped off. We won't have much to do with anything other than providing some security. The revenue expected for the port for the season of sailings is just north of $600,000, and that is not in the budget for this year because we were just finally wrapping this up. Any questions?
Commissioner Enright?
So they will sell the days, the days of the cruise line is not here, and is there, how much is the fee, did you know?
Right now, they're talking about between $500 and $800 per
And
cruise.
they would just go to Key West and come back the same day, or?
Yes, we have the itinerary up behind you. You can see they stop in Islamorada and also Jefferson.
So if they leave in the morning, then they'll come back the next day, or the
No,
same?
it's 3 and 4 day. And there are some conflict dates with this vessel to which they might operate a
So
7
it's
day.
a real cruise, it's not like going to Key West coming back in.
The difference is it's a U.S. flag vessel, so we
Right.
won't have to go through CBP or customs or anything else like that.
Okay, and it's 3 days.
3 and 4 night, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's a little bit different, you know, it should be a nice day for us. The last item I have for you, I just wanted to mention that this building is now completely full. There's no space for any tenants, and also the Southgate warehouse is also completely full. Big thank you to Takaria, who works real hard with us, crossing the T's, dotting the I's, and making sure everything's in line so that we're making some money.
Thank you. We don't get to see Kara that much. I don't know if she's in the audience.
She's in the back there somewhere. Pull her out and wait.
Thank you for all of your help and your support.
Thank you.
We have H4, Governmental Affairs Report.
Chairman, Commissioners, Richard Pinsky. The report that I have today involves 3 things. First, the update on our Peanut Island lease, which we have received a draft back from the county. There are some items in there that are going to require further follow-up. However, Director ALMIRA, myself, gone to as far as we can go, and now once you have a port council secured, we will be tossing the ball in their direction. We'll go over with them and show the items that we noted. Similarly, we have the interlocal agreement draft back. We had sent one over to the city of Riviera Beach. They have responded. We have that draft, their comments. Again, before we go any further, we feel as though we need to include council on behalf of the board. And finally, the Palm Beach County Legislative Delegation is going to have their starting back up again on the first meeting on September 2nd at FAU. They'll have the local bill hearing. Good news, we don't have a local bill, not that I know of. I hope we don't have a local bill.
Not yet.
On October 28th, and then of course their committee meetings in Tallahassee begins the 3rd week in September, 2 in October, 2 in November, 1 in December. Session starts early in January. So that is the report. No action required.
I just have one good question. What is the timeline so we can put that baby to bed with the Peanut Island? What is the timeline for that?
Well, seeing that the audit committee selection got derailed, so if you select a council today, and you then negotiate a contract, so whenever that firm is on board or individual is on board, we're hoping that that would be one of the first orders of business. Director ALMIRA and myself hoping that that would be a September meeting.
Cross my fingers. Okay, thank you. Any questions on the board? Thank you. Are there any commissioner reports? H5? Okay. Madam Clerk?
Old business, I2, general court counsel services, selection of new law firm.
Okay, commissioners. As you all know, we went out with an RFP and we received 6 respondents. The RFP, we were asked senior staff evaluation form were actually sent to the commissioners. We should have a copy. So now the question becomes, what is the pleasure of the board? We have to rank those aforementioned law firms, and then we will be able to tally or tabulate it, and then take it from that point on.
Commissioner Enright, you recognize?
I have a question first. My question is, I looked over the material, but I would like to know about how much they're going to be charging an hour. Or are we going to do it the same way we do with Pickens, or what? Are we just hire them a certain salary a year? You know, I was just wondering how the money adds up.
Sure. Based on what I read, Commissioner, there are different hourly rates. And as Richard Pinsky mentioned, once a firm has been ranked 1, then we are free to communicate and negotiate a contract with them. At that point, I'm hopeful that we will be able to establish an hourly rate, just like we pay Gary, Dietrich, and Ryan.
Mr. Chairman, can we vote?
I guess. Are there any other questions? I have one. I just have this, if all the respondents have to include the certificate of liability insurance, I just kind of noticed at this point.
Lease, yes. Yeah. Yes.
Okay, and, well, this is one that's house. I will pass this off record to you and staff as well.
Sure.
So, do we have the forms? Now, I guess by enough of the voting, I just want to make sure, if a commissioner chooses just to vote for one individual,
No.
so we have to vote, I just want to make sure, so they have to vote. So do we bring each one of them, or we do them just the top?
You rank all the firms,
I
and
want to make sure that we're on the same page.
number 1 is your first choice, and number 2 will be the second choice, so on and so forth.
Okay. Commissioner Zickman?
Even though I'm the only one that's always in favor of majority, you know, whoever gets 3 votes, but obviously that's not going to, especially now since we're missing a commissioner, so that might not happen. So in other words, the firm that gets the lowest amount, we're going to basically negotiate with them to see if we can get an agreement. What happens if we can't get an agreement? We go to the next lowest firm?
Yes, that would be the idea.
Okay.
Once it's completed, would be Jackie, you're going to be picking them up?
Just give us a second, thank you.
The music,
Commissioner Richards?
I have a hard stop. I have to leave here for 5 minutes to 6 May, as much as I can today. I just want to. Just not important. While we wait, I wanted to personally thank Mr. Pickens, Greg Pickens, and his firm for upwards of 20-something years of phenomenal service. From John, Gary, to John, and yourself, I appreciate your efforts. I'm sure we all do, and the staff as well. We'll miss you, even though we like to give you a hard time. Greg, thank you for all you've done for us. I appreciate it. It's a pleasure working with you.
Thank you, it was a pleasure.
Mr. Chair, I will also echo that. He knows how close we worked throughout the years, and particularly when I started. And he really assisted and helped me tremendously for that. Forever grateful. Thank you. Greg.
I would also like to echo, Mr. Pickens, I don't know what we're gonna do without you. It's like you're part of the game now. 17 years, I walked through this building and looked at your face, and we're gonna miss you. I know I will.
Thank you. And definitely thank you for getting me acclimated as a new commissioner being on this board. And I was saying thank you for getting me acclimated when I first came on the board and up to now.
Thank you. Oh, wow.
Okay, with that being said, it seems we have the results in. Can I entertain a motion?
Can you read them for the record, please?
Okay, we have number 1, Mason Yeager. Well, I actually have the clerk. Can you read the record?
Number 1, we have Mason Yeager. Number 2, we have Brandenburg and Associates. Number 3, we have Gilchrist Law Firm. Number 4, we have McCarran Group, McCarran Group. Number 5, we have Tosevia Endowment. Number 6, we have West Soroto.
Aaron, from the method the tabulations, I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the results of the selection by the commissioners, and we give Mr. Mayor, our executive director, authorization to work with to negotiate with the firm with the lowest amount of votes, which is Hanson and Yeager.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Enright and seconded by Commissioner Richard. Are you ready for
Discussion.
discussion?
Just to make it clear, so in other words, our staff's going to negotiate with Lease and Billy Yeager and see if they can come up with a deal. And if they can, it'll be our attorney. If not, they'll move to the second Brandenburg decision.
Right,
Okay.
right. I made the motion.
I guess I already, is there any other evidence? Hearing and seeing that, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Madam Clerk?
Full business item 3, land purchase on 10th Street, contract for purchase and sale, Gerald Properties LLC and 1320 North Broadway LLC.
We've talked about this numerous times. Paul, is there anything new they have to add, or is it the same thing we've talked about?
Basically, the cost to demolish the houses, clear it all off, and rough grade the land came in at $175,000, which is a little bit over what we had estimated. Point engineer feels is good. If you're okay, we'll move forward and consummate the deal.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been properly moved by Commissioner CIKLIN, second by Commissioner Enright. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Full business I-4, Building 13 canopy replacement, award of contract for the installation of one big top tent.
For clarification, Commissioners, the big top tent has been ordered under a GSA contract and should be here in about 4 weeks. So as authorized by the board, we went out for invitation to bid. 2 bids were received, one from All Site Construction of West Palm Beach. This is for the installation in the amount of $26,250. Bid number 2 from Close Construction in the amount of $28,169. All Site Construction is a certified minority business enterprise, women business enterprise, small business enterprise, and disadvantaged business enterprise with multiple agencies. Engineering has reviewed the bids, applies the mock terms of the ITB. We recommend award to All Site Construction.
So second.
Okay, it's been properly moved by Commissioner Richards, second by Commissioner Enright. Are there any questions?
No.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Full business I-5, approval of master plan preparation contract, Moffett and Nichols Inc.
This is an exciting start to our master plan process. I work closely with the Director of Planning, and we've got a contract prepared with Moffett and Nichols. The contract, I will request authorization of the Executive Director to sign the work order. The work order is the amount of $798,789, and that is for the Newport White Paper, starting from scratch to strategic master plan.
So moved.
Second.
Been properly moved by Commissioner CIKLIN, seconded by Commissioner Enright. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
On the next item, Commissioners, I look for direction from you. We've had a lot of proposals, RFQs, et cetera, so I'm asking for direction. This is a CCNA selection. We have 7 proposals from our submissions of qualifications from consultants for the design of the MOC chiller plant. Basically, I'd like direction as to whether you would like for us to give you the books and have you review them and go through them next week, or would you like staff to review and make the recommendations?
Okay, just for 1 second, can you read it into the record?
Full business I-6, HVAC and MOC chiller plant analysis and/or replacement selection of professional consultants.
Okay, what is the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I think that we already did the CCNA with EC Fennell, and I know that they have staff on board and who really been dealing with our chillers from God knows when. I mean, before I even arrived here, they were with, what is it, the attorney, before CH Hill was J.G. and Jensen. And I would just like for us to just select EC Fennell to do the work, because they have the men on board who did the chiller years, centuries ago. And I think it would be good.
I like the staff. Basically, I have no idea who's most qualified to do something like this. And I'm I'm sure Nell's probably one of the people that could be selected, but I think that something like this, since one commissioner has no idea who would be the best, and that's what we pay our engineers for, so I'm in favor of letting them do the selection, and I think that would be more prudent than just picking someone. That's just my.
Are you just asking for some clarification? Are you asking to go out for bid or to go with our pool of?
We have already gone out for a request for qualifications and have received 7. And I would request that the port attorney give us guidance on whether or not the motion that you select is in accordance with the CCNA.
I'm sorry, I need to, first of all, the board voted to go out for CCNA for this purpose. And you made recommendations.
And we've received 7. We're asking you for guidance. Do you want to take the 7 RFQs, as we have done with the larger projects, review them, rank them, and ask for presentations from them, or would you like staff to do it?
Well,
To select one, I do not believe it is in accordance with the CCNA.
First of all, you went out with a specific process.
Greg, can you speak a little louder? My apologies.
I'm sorry. First of all, you went out with a specific process. They submit the board, if you want to accept what staff has recommended in terms of ranking of the 3, you can do that. But at this point, to be turning it over to staff, that's not part of the process. That's just, that was not what you went out with, and I don't see how you can switch in the middle of it.
So we need to select the firm. So in essence, we need to select the firm from the ones who submitted their credentials. Am I correct?
I think what Mr. Coddington has said is that you have X number of firms that their staff has, you've done a preliminary ranking, and...
No, we have not done a preliminary ranking. I'm asking, do you want staff to rank to you, or do you want to do the ranking? That's what the importance is.
I'm sorry, I think we were having a terminology question here. I think staff always reviews the submissions and gives you their opinion.
Right.
But my understanding was that Mr. Coddington wanted, and my understanding was that Mr. Coddington wanted to know how many firms do you want to come and make a presentation, but the staff hasn't ranked yet. And when I say rank, it's not the formal ranking, they just give you their evaluation. But the board needs to rank unless at the beginning of the process in the CCNA, you want to assign that to staff to do the ranking.
Can we stipulate, in my opinion, I would love to be consistent, and if that is the process, can we stick to the process, and then have your recommendation come to staff, and we follow like we just did, just a couple of resolutions, go and rank them, if that's what I'm hearing. I would like to be consistent.
Correct.
Good. All right. So do you need that in a vote, just directive, or do we need to ratify, or motion?
I think that this step just needs to go ahead with its receive the responses. It needs to go ahead with its usual process of evaluating them all, coming to the board with its recommendations, and then the board decides which will actually formally rank 3 for negotiation.
Is there any questions? No. All right. Any Martin, thank you. All right. Thank you, Mr. Davis. Thank you, Mr. Hunter.
New business, J1, general insurance policies, authorization to purchase fiscal year 2022, general insurance policies and selection and appointment of broker for fiscal year 2023.
Paul J. Zelinski, Chief Financial Officer and Deputy Director. Last year, with respect to general insurance, there were no increases, as the prior year, our agent of record, USI, had locked the rates into 2 years. For 2022, they are proposing, through their negotiations to various areas, a 6% increase, or about $24,000 after we bill back the appropriate amounts to our tenants. The insurance will be placed with the same carriers as currently. Management supports this recommendation. So today, we are asking the board to allow USA, to approve USA submitted insurance services as recommended by the board, and to authorize USA to purchase these policies on behalf of the board. We're asking the Board of Commissioners to respectfully allow the Executive Director to execute these policies on behalf of you, and the Board of Commissioners respectfully requested to appoint USI Insurance Services as broker of record to get this insurance for the year 2023.
So moved, we appoint USI insurance, general insurance broker.
Second.
Mr. Harvey moved by Commissioner Sickman and seconded by Commissioner Enright. Are there any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
New business J2, group health insurance, approval of insurance providers and consideration and selection of broker for fiscal year 2023.
With respect to the health insurance, we received, let me just go back here. I want to thank Charlene O'Toole from USI for the hard work she did in getting that quote. I would be remiss if I moved on without that. With respect to the group health insurance, Gary Group has done an outstanding job for the court. What their recommendation is, and I think they've been discussed individually with you, with healthcare, we would stay with United Healthcare, exactly the same coverage. With dental, we would move to United Healthcare, and which removes the cap, annual cap. Humana, we would switch to Vision, and the policies for basic and supplemental life, short and long-term disability would go with standard. With respect to the cost of it, they've been able to negotiate a price that includes a one-time credit of $67,000. So bottom line, these policies will cost less than they did last year. Both the management supports it, and we ask for your approval.
Make a motion that we select Gary Group to replace our health insurance, dental, vision, etc. That's my motion.
Second. Moved by Commissioner Sickman, seconded by Commissioner Richards. I just want to say thank you and thank Ms. Marion for reaching out as well as giving a very detailed update of this whole process.
I also need to get the board to vote on allowing the executive director to execute it and to appoint Gary Group to get our insurance for the year 2023 as well.
So
That's part of my motion.
All of this motion.
Second.
Just under discussion.
It's under discussion. It's already moved by Commissioner Sickman and seconded by Commissioner Richards. So this is under discussion.
It's under discussion. As most of you know, that I kind of take a lot of time on the group health every year. I go talk to Cliff. They've got a new member of their team that's been very helpful to us. And once again, he's come through, and like I know from my real job, insurance has gone sky high. He was able to get us the Cadillac again. All our employees should be very thankful for our staff to what we do for them, and it's just very good that we can afford to do such a wonderful plan for our employees.
Again, I want to thank Mark and Sam for their hard work in doing and putting this together for us. And that's my letter.
I just want to echo what Commissioner CIKLIN said as far as Karen insurance. They go far beyond to make sure that we understand, and sometimes we give them a hard time, but we're happy to have them on board with the Port of Palm Beach, and I thank them.
Thank you.
Any unread business? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Richards, I'm not sure if Paul's going to do any further meetings, and I'm leaving in 2 minutes. May I take a moment to take this last item?
Yes, Commissioner Richards.
Paul, we're going to miss you.
Thank you.
I'm sure you've enjoyed the news you present. We generally race to approve your items because you're going to be so thorough.
Thank you.
Being Deputy Court Director, thank you for all of your efforts. You're very professional, very thorough, and we've been very well served, so thank you sincerely.
Thank you for supporting me.
New business, J3, Port of Palm Beach 2022 Master Plan, Public Transportation Grant Agreement, PTGA, and Resolution Number 2021-10, State of Florida Department of Transportation, Port of Palm Beach.
Commissioners, now that we've picked Moffitt and Nichols to conduct our master plan, we need to find a way to pay them for their work. And this is the FDOT PTGA for the 2022 master plan. I'm requesting approval of this. This is for in a term of $800,000. Also, it will request the approval of the resolution that goes along with the PTGA. It would be handed off to Florida Department of Transportation.
Move J3.
Second. Thank you.
Moved by Commissioner Stickland, second by Commissioner Richards. Is there any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
New business, J4, Port of Palm Beach, fiscal year 2022, Catholic Protection Program, Public Transportation Grant, PTGA, and Resolution Number 2021-11, State of Florida Department of Transportation, Port of Palm Beach.
Commissioners, we received a grant from FDOT in the amount of $1,333,333 for the port engineer to install cathodic protection on the slips. We may be coming back to you next year to finish off this project. It just kind of depends on how far this goes. And so what we're requesting is the approval of the PTGA and the accompanying resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Commissioner Stickland, second by Commissioner Enright. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you.
New business, J5, Annex Property Waterline Utility Easement Agreement with City of Riviera Beach.
Commissioners, I apologize, J5 probably should have been on the consent agenda. This is simply authorizing the executive director to execute the water line easement for the Port Annex property.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Stickland and second by Commissioner Enright. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
New business, J6, Port Infrastructure Development Program, Selection of Professional Consultants for Presentation of Qualifications.
Commissioners, this is the Port Infrastructure Development Program Selection of Consultants. We received proposals from Atkins, HDR, Jacobs, Railroad Consultants, Stantec, and Trans Systems. The selected consultant will provide for the design-build criteria package and advertise proposals. In addition, the consultant will be providing services during construction on multiple projects in that plan. I have attached a staff scoring sheet for the 6 consultants. However, the board members may select any or all of the presentations to the board for the September meeting. The Florida CCNA requires the minimum of 3 be selected for presentations. And the process similar to that for how we did the master plan. We asked the board to determine the selected consulting firms to participate in those presentations. And you do have a score sheet. We're asking you to put an X next to the ones you want to present. A minimum of 3 is required.
Just an X.
Just an X.
Just 3.
Minimum.
A minimum of 3.
And put an X. Oh, Lord, I messed up. Okay.
Wait a minute, we'll get a new one.
Oh, wow.
After their presentations, you will do the ranking at the next commission.
And how many do we do? 3?
Minimum.
A minimum of 3.
Just an X. Not a number. Oh, Lord, I started on my third one.
They kept us very, very busy with all of this information.
So, it's just the three that we picked? So whoever we pick now, they will get the pick,
Yeah.
right?
Okay, go ahead. Commissioners, we're going to put the results up here. You can see that you clearly have selected HDR and trans systems. You have a tie for the third. One option is to simply bring the 6 that have votes in to make presentations. Or, at your discretion, we can do a tiebreaker for the Atkins, Jacobs, and Stanton. Carl, they'd like to do a tiebreaker for the 3, so we could.
Right.
Do anything? They need the forms, 3 forms, so they do a tiebreaker. Do you have 3? Yes.
Carl, the three that have 1 vote each are
Yeah, who are those?
Atkins, Stantec, and who was the third?
I'm sorry, one more.
What are the 3 that have 1 vote only?
Oh, excuse me. Okay, I understand. Okay.
Atkins, Jacobs, and Stantec. We're asking you to just vote for one of those 3, and let's see if we can break the tie.
Put it up.
Yes, you put it up. Commissioners, the tiebreaker goes to Jacobs, so we'll add Jacobs to the other two firms and have them make presentations at the next board meeting.
Okay, so do we need to,
For the record.
for the record, I entertain a motion to accept the results.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Enright, second by Commissioner Stickland. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Madam Clerk?
New business J7, Burke expansion agreement, Burke 1 Palm Beach LLC.
This is the last agenda item, Commissioners, but I'll ask, and I'll simplify it. I'm looking for authorization to negotiate a 10-year lease with Firth One International. Why? Because they would like to expand their capacity. There's the diagram. This is what they would like to accomplish. This is what they were looking to build. They're looking, this would probably cost anywhere between $2.5 to $3 million. So again, I asked the board to provide me with the authorization to start negotiating a new lease, a new 10-year lease with Firth One International.
The motion that we take reference authorization to negotiate a new 10-year lease with Firth One Palm Beach.
Been moved by Commissioner Stickland, second by Commissioner Enright. Is there any questions? All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you. They are.
We have comments from the public. We have one comment from the public. It is Director Caesar. Correct.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
My name is Dredging, and the president founder of Haiti Catalog Research Funding Foundation, as well as UN representative. I'm here today to say thank you very much to Commissioner Joe Anderson. A year and a half ago, I approached him for Earth Day Summit. So because of COVID-19, we couldn't collect funding. So we took the project and we went to Africa with it. Today, my foundation has been recognized for the environment work that we've been doing in Africa, in Haiti, which we're no longer in Haiti, and in right here in Florida. Tomorrow, the 1st and the 2nd of September, I will be speaking about the blue-green algae in Florida. Our foundation is the only one in Florida who will be accredited as a Paris Agreement. So we'll be traveling, negotiating with who will be our stakeholders. For example, who will be working with us as a observer. Our plan is to focus on blue algae in Florida, which a lot of people failed to. Our foundation is environment health-related disease. And since the Port of Palm Beach receive a lot of activities, boat coming in, and then whenever you have a meeting, we got in marine leader microplastic, which we'll be talking as well. So for the past 2 years, we've been collecting close to 1,000 debris from around Lake Worth Beach. So once again, I say thank you very much. You will open your arms, and then we've grown. We not only grown from the Paris Agreement as a business owner and as a black woman that own a very multi-talented business. I said thanks to each one of you that contribute, especially you. We want to give you a certificate, but the trustee was my husband, because we are vendors of UN, so our signatures are very valuable. So we don't want no more certificates. We will not give any certificate to anyone, because it has to be very special, because you will have the UN logo with a signature on it. So I said, thank you very much for opening your arms. So we've grown, and we're looking forward to being in the meeting when you have any issue regarding environment, leader microplastic. Thank you very much.
And thank you for your community service, and congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
All right, with that being said, are there any comments from the board, Commissioner?
I just want to make one, Mr. Pickens and also Mr. Paul. I'm going to miss both of you, and I don't know, it's going to be hard to come in this building without seeing both of you. But I thank you for all your years of service. You've been troopers. You stood by the port through thick and thin, and we've had some times, haven't we? We've had some tough times, and I just thank you for staying around this long, Mr. Pickens, and also for Paul. Thank you.
And I also want to echo those sentiments. Thank you for all of the information and knowledge that you have imparted on me and bringing me up to speed to get me acclimated to this position, and you will be sorely missed, as well as I still look to see you around. With that being said, is there any conflict with our next regular Board of Commissioner meeting, which is Thursday, September the 16th? Okay, I would just motion to, we stand adjourned.